I finally got around to watching the Fallout show, and man was I impressed. The show was fun to watch, and I would say it even exceeded my expectations. The list of successful adaptations of games, books, and whatnot is very short, but I can confidently say that Amazon's Fallout adaptation can join the ranks of HBO's The Last of Us and Netflix's Arcane. The show stayed true to the source material, for the most part, and I'll touch on some things throughout this video, but I just like the overall vibes the show gave off. It was fun, wacky, violent, and I was a fan of how the plot slowly grew more and more serious as the episodes went on. A lot happened in 8 episodes, and it's been a while since I have been this excited to wait for another season for a show. This show was designed in a way that anyone could get into it. You don't have to be a longtime fan of the games to enjoy this. But for me personally, as a fan of the games, the show did make me smile on a few occasions with the fan service provided with many references from the games. So here's my review of Fallout. I'd like to start off by giving praise to those that made this show possible. A big shout out to Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, the show's executive producers, and a few more go to Graham Wagner and Geneva Robertson Dworet, the showrunners. Oh, and a special mention to the man himself, Todd Howard, who was also brought in as an executive producer. If you followed this channel for a while, then you know I have voiced my opinions on respecting the lore of a story a lot over the lifetime of this channel. Maybe the producers and showrunners for the Halo show could take some notes on this show on how to adapt a game's lore and universe the right way. Just a thought. Like I said though in the intro, this show felt like Fallout. This is a spit image of the post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland that was designed in the games. I'm glad the people behind this show respected that lore and were mostly accurate with things. I think it's great that Todd Howard was there to help guide them as well. This show had every reason to succeed, and with the right people in place, it did. I thought the show excelled in creating a complex and intense world that the Fallout games are known for. The creators didn't miss a beat on Fallout's world-building elements and themes. We got a little bit of everything, from iconic vaults, desolate ruins, and even weird wacky settlements in the wasteland. I was always a fan of Fallout's retro-futuristic technology in the games, and I was pleased to see how the show incorporated that technology in multiple ways, whether it be with weapons, vehicles, scientific equipment, and basic household items. I enjoyed the cast and characters as well. Ella Purnell as Lucy, Walter Goggins as Cooper Howard, aka the Ghoul, and Aaron Moden as Maximus. The show focused heavily on these three, and each of them came from different backgrounds, and it was kind of reminiscent of the games. You know, you come across many different people with different backgrounds, different stories, you know, they rep different factions and whatnot, and even the side characters were pretty interesting. And it's always impressive when you can look back at a scene or an episode and vividly remember a character that showed up for a short time and just, you know, remember the impact they made on that scene in that moment. These characters also represent you. Everyone goes on their own journey in the Fallout games. You get to pick and choose the faction you want to support. You get to choose what quests to do. You get to choose who lives and who dies. Your choices matter quite a bit throughout the games, so it's nice to see multiple characters going on their own journeys and then eventually running into each other, which leads to a combination of conflict and teamwork. And I'll touch more on character development in a moment as it ties into my thoughts on the narrative itself. I thought both the writing and the pacing was spot on. I usually am the person that complains about shows being rushed. I'm not a fan of when a show produces less than 10 episodes in a season, and I really hate it when they make 30-minute episodes and then they go about rushing through important story stuff or just cramming too much in to one small episode. This is something Disney has struggled with immensely with a lot of Star Wars and Marvel shows. I think one of the many reasons why this narrative structure was so strong and focused is because of the fact that the episodes were allowed to breathe. We didn't see any part of the plot rushed because of a 30-minute episode. Most episodes were around an hour long. Heck, some were even a little over an hour. The writers found a delicate balance between scenes that were important to the plot and then moments that were, you know, more for fun or allowed the world to build more and add fan service elements. I thought there was enough time given to important scenes, especially flashback moments that built up the lore of the show and to help us understand where we are in this setting with these characters. And speaking of balance, the show skillfully switched from moments with intense action and showdowns between characters to calmer, more character-driven scenes. And as a viewer, I felt my emotional investment in the show grow from one episode to the next. The show felt authentic because each character faced their own moral dilemmas, and those interweaved at times once the characters were together. This is where the themes from the game show up, and these are real-world themes too. A lot of dilemmas in this show have no real right or wrong answer, just like what would happen in real life if you're in these kinds of situations. The show did feature some stereotypical thematic elements like survival, the complexities of humanity, and how to rebuild society. These are all themes that we have seen in other shows and movies based on this kind of story and in this kind of setting. But in this show, it's done in such a unique way. And that's why I never had any doubts that a Fallout show can be done right. If the story told in the games was so good that it spawned a huge franchise of games, then why can't it work in television format? Character development is one of the show's greatest strengths. The 8-episode journey for the main protagonist, Lucy, is done so well. There's a huge difference between Vault Dweller Lucy at the beginning of the show and Wasteland Survivor Lucy in the season finale. Lucy embodies the spirit of a survivor, but in the sweetest, most innocent way. That's because her journey starts with her being unaware of all the upsetting truths that she will eventually uncover on her journey outside the vault. Lucy doesn't go through character development, it's more like character transformation. She starts off as nice, innocent, and resilient. She has faith that the good in humanity can be restored, but her time in the wasteland slowly changes her mood as she overcomes threats from people and monsters. You can slowly see her positivity and pep decline into a sad and angry state, and that is capped off in that emotional finale. It's truly heartbreaking to see the last of Lucy's happiness and positivity evaporate in front of her eyes when she learns the truth about her father and when she has to make that decision to kill her mother. Lucy's development is perfect. Other characters like Maximus and Cooper are well developed as well. Watching their storylines and learning about their motivations was just as interesting. I loved watching all three of these characters go throughout this show. I wasn't tired of one, I didn't get bored, I didn't prefer one over the other. I actually liked all three of them equally. The show respects the game's lore for the most part. There are a few changes that I've seen some people talk about and claim as controversial, and here's some examples. The NCR has severely been weakened or may not even exist anymore due to the destruction of Shady Sands. Shady Sands is a key location in Fallout lore, and it's been turned into a crater in the show. The Enclave, which has been considered a long dormant faction, has also returned, and that is hinting to a potential shift in power dynamics between the factions. But the biggest change to the lore in the show stems from who dropped the bombs first. The game lore has always pointed the finger to China as the first ones to send nukes. However, the show changed it and wrote it in as Vault-Tec dropping the bombs. There's some people that really don't like this change. I don't really see why it matters that much. I actually like the way they told it in this show. But look, at the same time, I'm not the biggest lore expert for Fallout, and I'm not as big into it as I am in, say, Star Wars. But I feel like in Fallout, you can have some changes. Again, especially since every player's story is different. Like, everybody goes on a different journey. Every game starts off a little bit differently. Once you're out of the vault, it's different storylines and whatnot. So I don't really think it's that big of a deal. And again, I really think it helped the plot in this show because it's really a dark moment in the series. I mean, it's Cooper's wife in that meeting with everybody else, and they're talking about advocating for this decision to be made to drop the bombs on their own people. It's just kind of fucked up. I just thought that scene and part of the plot was well done despite the controversy that it is apparently stirred up. And honestly, I had no complaints with this show. The only negative thing I'll bring up is the losers that called this show woke back when the trailer dropped. And why is that? Oh, well, you know, because a woman and a black actor were featured in the trailer and it indicated that they would be major characters in the show. So yeah, that tiresome act continued again with the announcement of the show. And you can also find reviews here on YouTube that call the show woke garbage, and, you know, they're just like trying to pull dust out of thin air and just try to theorize and come up with these hypothetical controversies about why this show is woke or it's going after white men or something. It's frustrating, but it's also laughable because people are trying so hard to make everything woke even when it's not. I saw zero proof of wokeness in this show. The Fallout show is a must-watch, whether you are familiar with the games or you're new to the lore. You need to check this show out. You will enjoy it. It's fun, exciting, and that finale was super emotional. It really pays off at the end, and it will make you excited and looking forward to a season 2. Fallout is not only a show that honors its origins, but it also expands upon them, and even mixes things up a bit. It ultimately created a rich and engaging experience that makes the show binge-worthy, and you will start waiting for season 2 eagerly once the credits roll in the finale. So go watch the Fallout show, you will not be disappointed. Well, hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you watched the show, tell me your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, well, feel free to go check out the rest and consider subscribing. Shout out to the subs out there. I see you guys coming through and just know I appreciate it. You can also find my content on podcasting platforms. Just Google Analyze This Podcast, and you'll find me on places like Spotify. Find me on X and TikTok as well, X at AnalyzeThis_YT, and TikTok at AnalyzeThis54_YT. Thanks again, and take care.